morning, this is Sarah from the 𝗿𝗵𝗆𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐿.com, and today, for Video Thursday, I'm going to show you how to make macaroons, macaroon cookies in your home. For those of you who make homemade ice cream and use egg yolks in your ice cream, you probably are like us. We have lots of egg whites that are left over, and you don't want them to go to waste because you've paid good money for these good pastured eggs, and you have wonderful egg whites that you need to use up. So macaroons is a great way to use up a lot of egg whites quickly and make a wonderful healthy snack for your family. I've also had a request to do a chocolate recipe this week, so instead of regular macaroons, I'm going to make chocolate macaroons today. And it's going to be a slight variation on the macaroon recipe in Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. And I do not put coconut in my macaroons because my family just doesn't care for it. So I just make coconut-free macaroons. So if you want to add shredded coconut to your recipe, feel free to do so. But I'm just going to do the basic recipe here today. So what I have here is I have 8 egg whites in this bowl, and they've come to room temperature. And as I said before, these are left over from actually 2 things in our house: making our own ice cream from raw pastured cream, and also for making Russian custard, which uses egg yolks and raw honey. And as a result, we have, just in the last few days, 8 egg whites left over, which I don't want to go to waste. So what you do is you just bring them to room temperature in a bowl. Get yourself some sea salt, and I used 𝗏𝗏𝗃 sea salt. And get yourself a good pinch of salt. Add that to the egg whites. And now I'm going to whip them until they froth and become quite stiff. So this will take a couple minutes. Okay, as you can see now, we've got a nice stiff egg whites, and they're nice and thick. They stand up. As you fluff it up, they stand up. And by the way, don't you love my pink 1950s retro mixer? I just thought I'd point that out. I love it. Anyway, once you've got your egg whites beaten nice and firmly, you can start adding the other ingredients. The next ingredient I add is I use Bob's Red Mill all-natural arrowroot starch flour, and this adds some body to the cookies. Make sure you get Bob's Red Mill in the bags. It's a lot less expensive than getting these little bottles of arrowroot flour from Frontier, which are quite expensive. This bag of Bob's Red Mill, I think, was only $3 or $4, and it'll last you a very long time. So I've got 4 tablespoons of arrowroot powder in here to go with the 8 egg whites, and you're just going to go ahead and dump that in, and then just stir it in slowly. Don't beat immediately, or you'll have a cloud of arrowroot powder around your head. And then just very slowly beat it in. Okay, and the next thing you want to add is your cocoa powder. Now, if you don't want to do cocoa powder, I am going to do cocoa powder today. My kids like that occasionally, and I do it for a treat occasionally. You can certainly substitute carob powder and a little chocolate extract instead. I'm going to use a little bit of cocoa powder, and I'm also going to use chocolate extract. So feel free to substitute as suits your personal needs. I've got 2 tablespoons of organic Rapunzel chocolate or cocoa powder in here. Just go ahead and dump that in. And again, just mix it a little bit before you beat it. Okay, that took about 30 seconds to whip in the cocoa. The next thing you're going to add is your chocolate and vanilla extract. I don't really measure this out. I just pretty much put a splash in, like that. Vanilla, you want to put in a little bit more. And once again, just whip for just a moment. The final ingredient that you're going to put in is your maple syrup. And notice how dark my maple syrup is. It's a grade B maple syrup. Make sure that you purchase grade B maple syrup and not grade A maple syrup, which is much lighter in color. The grade A maple syrup has much lower levels of minerals in it. So if you're going to go ahead and use a sweetener, get as much nutrition out of your sweetener as you can. So use the grade B. It's worth the extra price. And if you don't want to use a full cup of grade B maple syrup for the 8 egg whites here. By the way, it's going to make about 40-45 cookies or so. 40-45 cookies about that size. Feel free to cut this maple syrup in half and use about 5 drops of liquid stevia. Instead, I am going to use just maple syrup today. And what you do is you just pour it in as you're whipping it. We are done with the cookies. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to take some parchment paper, and this is important because the macaroons get rather sticky when they're drying out in the oven. So get yourself some parchment paper, and you'll notice I have a plain old aluminum cookie sheet here. Some of you may have some really nice stainless steel cookie sheets. Those are fine. You're still going to need parchment paper anyway because they'll stick to any sort of metal. And of course, with aluminum, that's not the you don't want your food sticking to aluminum. So you always want, if you're using aluminum, make sure you always use parchment paper on top. Okay, with that, you just get yourself a small ladle, and you're just going to scoop out your cookie batter, like so. You can see that they're very foamy, but they hold together nicely. And you're going to go ahead and put those into the oven. And you're going to turn your oven on and cook them at about 300 for 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, you're going to turn down the temperature to 200 degrees. And you're going to leave the cookies, and they're going to literally dry out for the next, I think it's going to take about 3 to 4 hours at 200 degrees. And we'll pick up at that point when they're ready to come out of the oven, and I'll show you what they look like. We're back 3 hours later, and the macaroons are now dried out. They've been drying at about 200 degrees Fahrenheit in the oven for the last few hours. And I'm going to pull out one pan and show you what they look like. You can see they come out on the parchment paper. Pretty much touch them right away because 200 is not very hot in the oven. You just pop them off, and you can see they're very crispy little cookies. I call them the original high-protein cookie. They're made with egg whites, of course, so they're very high in protein. And you just pull them off the parchment paper and put them in a glass container to dry, and you've got I've got 3 more pans to pull out of the oven. I'll have about 40 cookies, and you have some wonderful cookies now to feed your family. This is Sarah, the Healthy Home Economist of the 𝗿𝗵𝗆𝗄𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.com, and I hope you enjoyed the video for this week.